Hi guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about our curriculum choices for my daughter. She is going to be going into preschool for the 2020-2021 school year. I am super excited for her to be going through all of this, and she's super excited because she finally gets to do school with her three older brothers. I pulled out all of our curriculum from the prior years that my sons have used them. I have held on to everything, starting with my oldest. Everything that I have ever purchased for them, I use every year. I store it away when it's not being used, and I pull it back out when it is to be used. And so this is our last year going through our preschool curriculum. So I'm super excited that after this year, I can finally declutter a little bit and not have to put everything back into storage. With that said, I do want to point out one thing. I mentioned that I use the same curriculum over and over. This has worked for us, but I want to say that while I have used the same curriculum for all four of my children, if something did not work for them, I would have stopped and reevaluated and bought something that did work for them. All of my kids have different strengths, different weaknesses. Some things come easier than others, and lots of kids have just different learning styles. So I want to point out that if you buy something for your child and it does not work the way you intended, it is just not meshing well, there are lots of tears, lots of just fight to do anything, and it's just not clicking, it is okay to stop, reevaluate, and get a new curriculum. If you've done it for 2 weeks, 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, halfway through the year, and all of a sudden it's just not working, it is okay to stop, to switch, and find a new curriculum. And I want to point out that if any one of my kids had struggled or something had not worked with what we had purchased, I would have done exactly that. We have been fortunate enough that each of these things that I have purchased have worked relatively well for all of my children. I guess I will find out this year if it works for my daughter. But if it doesn't, I just want to point out that you are more than welcome. You have the freedom in homeschooling to stop if something is not working and choose something different. And it will be no different with my daughter this year. If it's not working, I'm going to get something different. First things first, I'm doing preschool, and I'm about to show you what I'm going to be using for her curriculum, but I want to point out that I rely heavily on play and experiences, being outside, reading books, going and exploring and doing lots of trips. I just want to point out that the time that I spend actually doing curriculum-based things, books and sitting at a desk and doing things like this, is a very short amount of time. All in all, I'll probably spend 30 minutes, give or take 10 minutes with my daughter each day. I am not making her sit at a desk all day. She will be doing lots of playing, lots of exploring. We will be outside as much as possible. I just want to point that out. For this year, for preschool, we will be working on the 3 R's, and those are reading, writing, and arithmetic. And when I say this, this is obviously at a 4-year-old level, okay? She's not going to be reading books, she is not going to be writing papers, and she's not going to be doing these massive math worksheets. So when I say we're doing those 3 things as the basis of our curriculum, we are doing the foundational work to get us to where we need to be. She's just doing the very basics. For arithmetic, or AKA math, whatever you want to call it, we are doing Saxon Math K. From my experience, we have done a grade level above. So even though it says Math K for kindergarten, she's actually still in preschool. This is just more appropriate for the age level. Now, one thing to point out with this one too is that it requires 0 worksheets. It is activity-based, where I'm going to be sitting and doing activities with my daughter, and she's not doing a written math worksheet or anything like that each day. It's all just activity-based and learning through using manipulatives. Things that are covered in this book. We're going to be learning numbers, we're going to be counting, we're doing shapes, we're going to be doing patterns, we're going to be evaluating the weather each day, maybe making a graph together on a sheet of paper where we mark if it's sunny or it's cloudy, it's rainy or snowy, things like that. So I'll show you a little bit. You know, we're going to be using things like this. We're going to be using blocks, and maybe we're going to make a pattern, and I might ask her what color comes next. We're going to be doing things like geo boards, where you're using the rubber bands to make shapes, and we're working on our fine motor control to make a shape, a triangle or a square. We might use things like counting bears or pattern shapes. Now, one thing I want to point out is that this book is not flashy, it's not fancy, it's not colorful. That's where I bring in all of those manipulative manipulatives that I just showed you. So we are doing a lot of hands-on work. We are doing things with colorful items, but the book itself, not flashy, not fancy. It is really great for beginners. If you are just starting and you don't know how you're going to teach math, how you're going to teach the very basic things, it does actually walk you through on things to say. It really actually does have a script. Now this can be a pro or a con, however you want to look at it. If you're new and you're just terrified of what you're going to teach, it's obviously an awesome tool. It can be a con that you can feel controlled by the script. And that's where I would say, as you learn what you're doing and how you're going to teach, you really just drop the script. You can start to figure out what works well for your child and evaluate what you need to say, what you don't need to say. So that's great to have, but if you don't want to be held to it, you don't have to be held to the script. So obviously, Saxon Math K has worked well for us. We've had no reason to adjust. So that's what we'll be using for her this year. I will point out that while we have no worksheets, it does come with a meeting book. And in the meeting book, it just is basically teaching you the basics of a calendar. So we're going to work on reciting like the days of the week, and we're going to work on reciting the months of the year, and just learning how to write our numbers by writing them on a calendar. So after you're done with that, then you also you see these arrows. The arrows merely are to record how many days you're doing your school. So on the first day, we'll write a 1 in there. And as we go, you'll just continue with each month. There's just 1 for each day that you fill in the arrows. So it's just a fun little thing that they are able to track and do a little bit of writing, but we're not doing real worksheets. So that's our math. Now, for reading and writing, our other 2 R's out of the 3 R's, so reading and writing, we're using a Becca K4. Now, with this, in a nutshell, she's basically just learning her letters, some sounds of basic letters, and learning how to write them. Now, I know a lot of people have very strong opinions about a Becca. They either love it or they hate it. There's rarely anything in between, and I will say it is known for being kind of expensive, being kind of rigorous, sometimes even like ahead in grade level, and it's also known for having a lot of busy work. And from my experience, this is actually pretty accurate description of it. So a lot of you are probably wondering, okay, well, why do you use it if you just nailed off all of those cons? And so I'll explain. I do love Becca's approach to learning phonics, to teaching you how to read. I wanted them to be able to have a good foundation of sounding words out, knowing some of the rules and why words are spelled a certain way. So they do a very good job of teaching a very good phonics approach to reading. Obviously, over the years too, I have learned, I have adapted, and I've removed what I deem to be unnecessary busy work. So yes, there is some extra busy work. In a homeschool setting, you don't need busy work. If your child understands a concept, if they're ready to move on, you just move on. So I do eliminate a lot of the busy work, the extra stuff. When my kid or my child gets it, I don't drill it 50 more times. We move on. That's another beauty of homeschooling, is when your kid gets it, you go at their speed, you go at their pace, and you just move on. And you'll see that actually as I show you my older kids, I'm going to also make a video for our 1st grader, our 3rd grader, and our 5th grader of what we're doing with each of them. You'll see as they grow and they get older, I make a move and we move away from a Becca. I just really like their foundational approach to learning the phonics. This is not flashy or fancy, it's not colorful. It does have a sort of script in it of things to say, worksheets to do, activities to do. So with this one, you will have to buy the consumables each year. This one does have some worksheets where you're going to do some coloring, you're going to do some writing of your letters, and just some other fun little activities for your preschooler. All right, guys, that is pretty much it. That is the core curriculum that I use for my preschooler. Now, we do have a morning basket time where we sit in the living room, we do school, we do some subjects that are together as a family. The first one being Bible, and if you watched my previous video about Bible, you'll see that I will require Eden to join us for our Bible time. We will have our Bible and our devotional that morning, and she will write about it or draw about it in her Bible journal. So that'll be something that she will be joining us for as well. But we do that as a family. These are more things that are geared to her personally and her grade level for preschool. We will also in that morning time be covering things like science and history and art and poetry in a loop schedule. And I will not require her to join us. If she sits in and she gets something from that, that is great. But I know that we will be covering these topics and these things again in the future, and I'm perfectly okay with her wandering in and out and listening some and playing some while we do it. So she will not be required to join us, and if she picks up something, that'll be great, and if she doesn't, that's okay too. All right, guys, that is it. That is what we are doing for our preschooler next year. And if you have any questions about anything that we're going to be using, drop the questions below. If you would like to see something a little bit more in depth, let me know and I'll see what I can do. Thanks, guys. Have a blessed day. Yeah. All right, Eden, what are we going to do this year?
Preschool.
And are you excited?
Yeah.
Yeah. How old are you going to be?
I don't know.
How old are you now?
3.
Okay, and how old will you be in next month?
I don't know.
What comes after 3?
4?
4. So you're going to be 4. Can you show them 4? Very good. She's going to be 4. And so yes, she is going into preschool. So this video is going to be about the preschool curriculum that we are using this year for Miss Eden for the 2020-2021 school year.